Alright, welcome to another tutorial in Maya. This one's kind of by subscriber request. Somebody wants to know how to create a gold shader, sort of like a shiny surface, gold. So if you take a look at gold, you have to kind of think of what gold is. What does gold look like? And that can lead you to just basically some conclusions that, yeah, it's going to be yellow and it's going to be kind of orangish. It might have a little bit of bluish tinge in it or whatever. But, essentially it's gold. So it's kind of yellowish gold. It's kind of a color, but it's also a surface. So with that in mind, if you take a look at what I have here, I have a rendering. And these are some attempts at creating a gold with some standard just some standard blends and whatnot. And then over here I have one that's just with the default material, just a regular Lambert. And I think that everyone can probably agree that this looks the most like gold right here, this one. So let's take a closer look at how to get to this point, because you're going to have to start somewhere, and the best place to start is probably with a mental ray, kind of with a mental ray metallic paint shader. So let's you switch your rendering over to mental ray and make sure you're in mental ray, and then let's open up the render settings, and you can see where I have my render settings. I've got my basically set to high quality rendering or production right here, just default, which is cool. And then if you come down here, you'll notice that I have like ray tracing enabled, which is cool because I'm kind of doing some ray tracing, but not really. It's not really affecting the render time. So anyway, that's kind of a starting point. And let's see, what else do we got here? That's about it. Qualities, now this right here is sort of our default starting point, our default quality starting point. And if you come over into your Features tab, you're going to notice that underneath your rendering features, you're going to have a lot of stuff to choose from down here. So, in this case, it all depends on the lighting in the scene. But since we're using mental ray, let's just go all out. We're only putting like one surface on here, which is gold. So really, it won't take that long to render stuff out. But, you might want to turn on your ray tracing, turn on global illumination. And in this case, caustics are not important, or importans really, because those have more to do with light passing through glass and things like that. So I don't know, it's not really that important. And you might want to turn on final gathering and, go ahead and select your ambient occlusion as well. And in this case, I have shadows turned on because that's what's reflecting, or that's the shadow down here that's coming off of this sphere. So that's about it. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now that we have some things enabled through mental ray for our actual render, we can go ahead and sort of, let's just get rid of the render settings for a second here. And I'm going to take my render view over here. Let's get rid of these two right here. And let's just concentrate on both of our objects here. Now, we're going to create this material from scratch and try and match this one. So right now you see I got my two spheres here, and what you want to do is go into your Hypershade, and in the Hypershade underneath your mental ray materials, you're going to notice that you have several choices with like metallic paints. And in these various choices right here, you have your metallic paints, you have your basic golds, and you have your basic silvers. So you have a choice. You can do it in one or the other. So in this case, I'm going to just choose the first MI metallic paint default. And you can see that if you choose these other ones, they sort of have some different effects with like refractions and reflections and layering and all that. So keep that in mind. These are just like three separate types of choices you can make. But let's just do the default MI metallic paint. All right, now when it comes up, you'll see that it's basically a red, or at least that's what my default is. Your default could go somewhere else. So what we want to do is just think of gold. And as far as gold goes, we're going to change the base color to, you know, something more like a yellowish, whatever color gold is, which is kind of right there. I mean, we can look at this as a starting point and say, well, that's really not it. Let's search around here a little bit more, maybe go on the yellow spectrum and maybe make it fairly bright like that just to start out. That gives us a starting place. And you'll notice that this now has a base color which is yellow. You can see that showing up in your material here in the Hypershade. And then it also has a lit color. And if you notice right off, this lit color is red here and it's showing up right there. So, you know, if this were gold, typically if that were a hot spot, it would fall off from like a really white hot yellow into sort of a mid gold or a, you know, something like that. So let's mess around with this color and just make it kind of bright and vibrant and put it in the same color family as we did this base color. So I'll go ahead and open that up. Let's go back over into our golds, and in this case you can see where I'm going to move my sliders around here a little more, and I'm going to brighten that up, and I might even come up here into, you know, that level. And as you can see, your shader updates down here. So now I'm kind of getting an idea of what it might look like as a gold. And in this case, you're going to have other parameters that you can work with, but for right now, your base color and your lit color are sort of important. So really that's all we're worrying about down here. And of course, your ambient control, you know, kind of defines how bright this shader is going to be. So in this case, let's just bring our ambient down, yeah, in the middle there, maybe down just a little bit more. And look at the next section, which is specular parameters. Your specular highlight, or basically your hottest white specular up here, like in this case, I have it set there. So maybe I'll just switch my specular back down into sort of a bright, you know, gold color, yellowish. And you can see it kind of updates it there, and that's looking pretty good. And that's usually the outer ring of the specular. It could be, you'll notice that you have a secondary specular that shows up right here. So I'm just going to switch this one over into kind of the same color family. And yeah, we'll just pick something like in there. Maybe something in there. Yeah, so you get the idea. Just sort of make it gold, a color of gold. And now down here, the flake, you know, in a lot of cases, you're going to want to just change this flake too. You could do some interesting things with the flake color, but for now, you can see where as I change this from like a white, I don't know how well this shows up on YouTube, but you can kind of refine your specular up here with your flake color. That's where it's going to show up most. So anyway, that's all that is. Now, you'll remember that you had two other choices in the Hypershade. You can upgrade this shader to the MI metallic paint by like 1, or, you know, up to this right here. So these 3 passes right here are reflected right here in your upgrade shader too. All right, so no big deal. Just don't do anything with those at the moment. And let's leave this here. And let's go ahead and assign this metallic paint to that other sphere. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose the object. Get over here and grab that. Let's see, we'll right mouse click, come down to existing material, and that's that metallic paint 2. Okay, so right away you can see there's kind of a difference between the one I first created and this one. So let's do a quick render and see what it looks like. All right, so you see I'm kind of close to where I refined this one quite a bit by adjusting my colors and using those tabs and those various controls to sort of give it a little bit different color. Now, check this out. Let's refine this one a little bit more and come up with something more like this. Okay, so I'm going to bring this to the side for a sec, and let's just take a look at. I'm going to click on in the Hypershade. I'm going to click in that MI Metallic 2, and I'm going to come down here, and I want to look at a couple of other things. Let's take a look at our flake color for a minute. And let's set this flake color just a little bit more in this spectrum right there. I'll leave that there. And let's see, let's bring our ambient color down just a little bit. And let's see here, what else can we do with this? Okay, tell you what, let's do another quick render and see where we're at. Okay, so I'm getting there, but you know, you're going to do a lot of rendering and a lot of adjusting in order to get it to this point. Now, let's see here. Anything you need to be aware of? Yes, the next thing you need to be aware of is rendering these out in Mental Ray. Is that, you know, you want to look at you know, all of your settings in Mental Ray. Is it visible in the transparency? And you know, I just sort of go with all of these when I'm sort of setting up a material. I just, you know, it doesn't hurt to have them on in some cases, but you know, you just want to kind of be aware of that. In this case, I have Final Gather Override checked. I've got Global Illumination Override checked and Caustics Override checked. So anyway, it's sort of adding, you know, all of that. And let's go back over here into our properties. There was one other property in here that actually I'm not seeing at the moment. I don't know why. Is a rim color, and you can adjust your various rim color here with the rim color control. So you can either bring your rim down to a black, or you know, in this case, it's like the edge color. That's why I'm not seeing. I'm just thinking of a rim color. So anyway, you can see where this edge color has a lot to do with stuff, because in this case it's a brown. But if I take that edge color and bring it up into, you know, something more like let's go extreme. Let's go into this orange, deep orange there, and let's do another render. And I don't know how this shows up on YouTube, but anyway, you can kind of see where it's adding to this outer edge and doing that. So anyway, that's probably a good starting point for just working with your first Mental Ray material. As you can see here, in the other materials I had in the start, I had like a blend. I tried to work with just a normal Maya blend surface on one, and then I think this anisotropic, I did that one. You know, and they don't necessarily look all that good. The Phong one, you know, let me just, for kicks and grins, I'm going to assign this Phong E1 that I created as a sort of an experiment. I'm going to take this and attach it over here to this one. So I'll go ahead and right mouse click, come down, go to existing material, and let's go to the Phong E1 and take a render, and let's see what these two look like now. All right, so you can see we're in this render, we're now getting, you know, this looks like gold, and it looks like sort of a matte flat surface gold. This looks like more of a reflective, highly polished gold surface, and so, you know, technically this is an easy way to get a reflection and have it still looking somewhat like gold. So, you know, a Phong, let me take a quick look at that Phong for you. I'm going to click on it over here, and here's basically what's happening. It's just a Phong E. I have my transparency level set to 0, color is all the way up, ambience in the middle. Didn't really mess around with the default diffuse or anything like that. Brought the roughness up just a little bit, and the specular color I think I set down into the middle there. And then, you know, you can always play with this reflectivity in that respect. So, and the reflected color is a basic black. So, you know, essentially for the lighting scene and everything else, that's what I'm getting. So anyway, that's about it for this tutorial. Hope you learned a little bit about gold, and go make this shader, okay? So thanks for stopping by. Read a book every day and be the best person you can possibly be at any given moment. So thanks for stopping by.